We're going to discuss a very hot topic today, which is state sponsorships for 190 and 491 visas. And to provide you a lot of information about it, we have a team of migration agents joining us. Every agent here will have 10 to 15 minutes to share their presentation about the states they are representing, and they will also be able to reply to customer questions over the presentation. And also, if we have more questions, in the end, we're going to open for a question and answer session. I will start giving you a quick information about all the presenters that are here with us today. So Mr. Ali, he's a migration agent from Sydney. He believes in providing authentic guidance and the best possible pathway for migration. He's highly skilled in state and regional skilled migration, especially for occupations related to management and marketing sector. And he holds distinctive expertise in handling very complex cases. He has helped thousands of clients around Sydney area and all over Australia to reach their goal of settling in Australia. Thank you, Ali, for joining us today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Covering Victoria and Tasmania, we have Ms. Gudgeon, who is a migration agent in Aussies Group Melbourne with more than 14 years of experience in immigration consulting and also management roles. She believes in empowering the student community with the right guidance and information that makes difference in their journey to settle in Australia. She has a knack of handling complexities and also developing solutions as per individual case scenarios. Thank you, Gunjan, for joining us. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. Representing Western Australia, we have Mr. Dharminder Singh, who has been working with Aussies Group Canning Vale for the past 3 years and has over 12 years of experience in immigration practice. He handles other visas as general skilled migration, parent visa, and partner visa with extensive knowledge about migration policies. He also makes sure he always brings a smile in every consultation to his clients. How are you today, Dharminder?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much for being here today. And also here from Adelaide office, we have Mr. Koster Kuzmin. He's a migration agent and also a PhD candidate in law. He has a passion for migration law and a zeal to provide the best solution to his clients. His aim is to make clients informed about all possible options and to be able to make conscious decisions to their migration pathways. He's proud of doing his job in an expedient and professional manner. Thank you so much, Kostya, for joining us, and I'll let you start your presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anna. Well, what a wonderful introduction. Thank you for that. Hope everyone can see my screen now. So I know that today we might have people from the offshore watching us and asking us questions. When will the borders reopen? When are we allowed to come back? Or when will the lists reopen? When can we apply? I'm not any one of the ministers, and I don't know any of them personally. I don't know what their intentions are. But the obviously good thing is that we have options for offshorers. Okay, so I'm pretty proud to be saying this as an Adelaide-based agent that we have options for offshorers in Adelaide. And obviously in the Northern Territory. The Northern Territory had these options even before, but this week, and this is something that is not on this presentation that was prepared beforehand, but this week Adelaide has released 70 occupations for people offshore. The requirements are pretty stringent. They would want you to have 7.5 in IELTS or equivalent in any of the other exams. But it's at least a chance in 70 jobs, and jobs range from project builder to sales and marketing manager, and even recruitment consultant and marketing specialist, and all sorts of other jobs. Why it's great? It's great because we don't limit ourselves as a state. South Australia doesn't limit ourselves to an engineering occupation or to a healthcare occupation. We take a bit of everyone, and now a bit of everyone has resulted in 70 occupations, all available to offshorers, which is absolutely amazing. So people offshore, if you would like to apply for state nomination, South Australia might be your best bet. Yeah, please get in touch for details with us. Now, everyone else who is onshore and still looking for opportunities, then we certainly are happy to offer the standard requirements for you. We all know what residing in a state is, and that's our key aspect of choosing people. A lot of people flock to the SA these days because we have multiple opportunities and plenty of nomination places this year. It's important to be under 45, you all know. It's important to be residing here, to be living here, and our officers sometimes will be calling you up if you are from interstate, if you moved from Sydney, Melbourne, any other place. They would want to contact you. They would want to verify your employment. They would want to know that you are here for long. And if you're employed, you need to be employed generally at least 20 hours. You don't have to be doing it full time. You can have 20 hours per week. If you are willing to live in outer regional South Australia, that can be even less than that. Well, we have options for everyone. Talent and Innovators program is the smallest program, but it might work for many outstanding interstate candidates. Currently working in SA is where interstate candidates would fit very well if they manage to find work in their field. And of course, we favor international graduates of South Australia, all these streams. So the Talent and Innovators program has the employment stream, startup and small business stream, high performing graduate stream, independent talent stream. Yeah, so as I said, this is a small stream. If we talk about high performing SA graduates, that's the stream which is biggest out of these sub-streams, and high-performing graduates can find a pathway. If it's a high-performing graduate from South Australia, they will be nominated by South Australia very quickly and effortlessly. All other applicants in the other sub-streams, sorry for me to say that, we have to fight for it, because the employment stream sets particular requirements. The independent talent stream, you must show that you are outstanding. If you're an accountant, you've worked in multiple firms, and you know, are a member of professional bodies and have 95 points and other things. So independent talent streams, startup and small business stream, employment stream, competitive streams, if they're a part of the Talent and Innovators program. The employment stream requirements. So if you're employed in SA, there are requirements to you, the business's turnover where you're employed. There are requirements for how long the business must have existed. And most importantly, and perhaps unfortunately for some applicants, the business must be in a priority sector of South Australia. Also, the business must be offering you an 80K salary, which is not easy for most applicants. However, waivers are available for recent graduates. Okay, and normally in this stream, they would expect you to have significant work experience in the field in general. Startup and small business stream is also a bit of a challenge, again, because we would want you to be in one of our priority sectors. We would want you, through your business, to generate an income of at least 53,900. So that must be the profit for your living, not the overall turnover of the business. You can apply on your own, being self-employed in the business, not hiring anyone else, but businesses who have to full-time employees on an ongoing basis would, of course, be preferred. Most importantly, all self-employed applicants must apply through this stream. Okay, so even if you think that you're not a business, you're a painter and decorator, you're painting walls, you think that you work for an employer, you want to go into the employment stream, but you're working for an employer through an ABN, you must only apply through the small business stream. You can't go into the employment stream. Okay, so everyone who is ABN and not TFN must go through small business stream in South Australia. And unfortunately, franchise businesses are not eligible in this stream. High-performing graduates, well, I'm not going to read the requirements or all the requirements for you. You will be able to read most of them in your free time when you want. But most importantly, we seek people with GPA above 5 or GPA above 6, South Australian graduates. We deem South Australian graduates to be graduates here once you've completed at least 50% of the qualification in essay. And normally, it used to be that for 491, we wanted you to have GPA over 5, and for 190, we wanted you to have a GPA over 6. Recently, and unfortunately, most of even GPA 6 holders have been given 491 nominations and not 190 nominations. So the focus in South Australia on 190 nominations has been for the people who are employed in the field for the published amount of time. If you're just high-performing graduate of SA with high GPA, it's most likely that no matter how high your GPA is, most likely you will get a 491. Okay, the independent talent stream, I would say that in my opinion, it's the most challenging option with the fewest number of invitations. You can give it a go. You're expected to have 95 points, and South Australia is so different from the eastern states. People coming from Sydney, for example, are used to the fact that they need to have as many points as possible. So they have a superior English and ART and other things. They will easily meet the 95 points requirement, and they think that this is the only requirement in the Talent and Innovators program. No, the problem is that normally, if you meet the points requirement, but that's the only thing you meet, you're never invited in this stream. Okay, so we would want you to have considerable relevant experience in the field. And we would also want to make sure that you're not going to leave this state the next day when you come here. Okay, so we would be looking at how exceptional you are. If you're very exceptional, even lower points than 95 can be considered. But we would also be looking at whether you consider South Australia home for yourself in the long term. That's very important in this stream. Okay. Now, the next priority stream is currently living and working in SA at least 20 hours out of 20 or 40 hours, whichever 20 hours at work in the field is fine. Now, for every occupation, the requirement is different. For 491, sometimes 6 months of employment in SA. For 190, 12 months. That's for most occupations, but there may be exceptions. There may be exceptions. So you can see the requirements on the SA website for every published occupation, or you can ask for our advice. We'd be able to help you. This is a very good stream. It means that you graduated with an engineering qualification and work as an engineer. Even if you're not a SA graduate, you're in the stream. You've graduated with a nursing qualification, work as a nurse. Okay, so even if you have 65 points, you would be able to get through. With the minimal number of points, you would be able to get through in this stream, because our focus would be not on the points. That's the major difference between us and eastern states. Our focus would be on your work experience, whether it's in the field, whether you were doing what you taught to do, or you're doing something irrelevant to what you're taught to do. If you're in your field of studies, you will get residence in SA easily in this stream. Okay. Now, of course, we have international graduates, and they're just one stream that I have missed. Yeah, living and working in outer regional South Australia. And that's a very, very, very important stream, especially from candidates coming interstate. Let the other states not be offended, but we've had a lot of people coming from other places for reasons that we all know. And a lot of the people can't find work in the field. If you can't find work in the field, if you are a mechanical engineer, you have skills assessment in mechanical engineering, but you know, as many people do, you can't find work. You work in OTR, you work in Coles, you work in any other places. In South Australia, just move to outer regional SA, work there for 1 year. Hopefully your 485 visa allows it. If not, talk to us. We will think of other options to extend your stay, but you need to go to outer regional. That's at least 100 kilometers away from Adelaide. Work for 1 year and you will get a 491 visa. We have poor demography in outer regional South Australia. Would be excited to have you. That works well for applicants going to outer regional. And importantly, again, I emphasize, in outer regional, you can do any job, any job. So I'm advising everyone, if you're not working in the field, if you can't find a job in the field, outer Adelaide perhaps is not for you at the moment. You can come back to outer Adelaide once your 491 is granted. But if you can't find work in the field, but you already have your skills assessment, you might have the skills assessment in engineering, but then go to outer regional and work as a farm worker, it's still fine. As a farm worker in outer regional is fine. In Metro Adelaide, this would not work. Okay. Okay, now as a long-term resident, we have a stream, which is the long-term resident stream in South Australia. Also for people who can't find work in the field, but work in any level 1, 2, 3, or if level 4 occupation, that's carers and aides occupation. Okay, for these people, long-term residents, if they have been in South Australia for at least 3 years, and they have been working as a carer for at least 1 year, for instance, they can apply. Not only as a carer, as I have said, let me give you an example. You're an accountant. It's particularly challenging for accountants these days. You're an accountant. Accountant is skill level 1. You have skills assessment from IPA or CPA or chartered accountants. You have skills assessment in that occupation. You can't find work as an accountant. You've been here for 3 years. Then the requirement is the last year here, you've been working in any skilled level 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's 4, then carers and aides occupation, you're able to obtain permanent residence. If you want to chat to us about what skill levels are and what is the skilled level in the Australian Bureau of Statistics qualification, which job is skill level 4, which is skill level 3, you're very welcome to book a consultation. Okay, the last stream is international graduates. International graduates are required to complete a qualification here, and sometimes not required to have work experience, sometimes can have as little as 3 months work experience, sometimes more work experience may be required. And as I said, there are waivers. High-performing graduates, the experience can be waived. If you have a GPA 5, GPA 6, work experience can be waived, but you still must have the skills assessment. Skills assessment is necessary anyway. Okay, and just a quick reminder, an SA is a wonderful place for the 494 employer-sponsored and other employer-sponsored visas. We are all regional Australia. We don't have metro places like Sydney and Melbourne. We're all regional. We have our own DHAMA, designated area migration agreement, which DHAMA for some occupations allows you to have as little as 1 year experience in your field for you to be able to be sponsored by your employer. For example, aged or disabled carer in South Australia, if they have an employer, they can be sponsored with as little as 1 year of experience. You don't need to do the 2 years that are standard for a 482 or the 3 years that are standard for a 494. Because of DHAMA, just 1 year of experience for some occupations. And we have waivers. Sometimes we have income waiver, where your income 53,900 that must be provided by the employer can be lowered by 10%. Sometimes we have age waivers. People can be as old as 50 or 55 for some 482s in the DHAMA. This is amazing, an amazing place to be if you have an employer who would like to sponsor you. Yeah, so that's briefly about the program, and certainly I don't know if we have any questions. Okay, amazing. So I'm being told that we don't have any questions so far. So I would be happy to pass on to Gunjan, who's going to talk to you about Victoria. So yeah, hello Gunjan.
Hello, hi. Thank you so much for passing it on to me. And you can stop your screen, so I'll...
Yep, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Gunjan, and I work as a registered migration agent with Aussies Group in the Melbourne Collins Street office. I'm going to be presenting my presentation regarding the Victoria 190 and 491 options and the Tasmania as well. I'm just going to share my screen now. All right. All right. Too bad. Sorry, it took me some time to share. Okay. I'm going to flip through this presentation, but I'm going to be mainly focusing on one of the most common questions, like some of the most common questions that I encounter from my clients regarding the Victoria and Tasmania state nomination. So I will be focusing on some of the sectors, and I will be happy to take some of the questions if they are coming in between or even after the session. So if you guys have any questions that have been left unanswered, please stay back, and because we will be addressing to all the question and answers in the end as well, or in between as well. So speaking about the Victoria, Tasmania, or any other state, when we talk about state nomination, we have 190 and 491. This is why I've put this subclass, is that some of the clients also ask us that what is the difference between the 190 and 491. Now, 190 is an Australian permanent residency. You can work and study anywhere in Australia. You can, as a permanent resident, you can sponsor relatives, and basically you are eligible to become a citizen as well. When we speak about the 491, that is not a permanent residency, but it is a pathway to permanent residency. So it gives you an opportunity to stay in Australia for 5 years in a regional area. So 491, you are sponsored by a regional state, basically. And that gives you the opportunity to live, work, study in a designated regional area. And you are eligible to apply for permanent residency even after 3 years, after fulfilling the criteria of your 491 visa. Now, with Victoria nomination, there are certain steps involved, and it's not that you directly apply for the nomination. There are some few steps involved in the Victoria state nomination, which is you first make an expression of interest. Like for any skilled visa, you must lodge an expression of interest. So first you make an expression of interest, then you submit a registration of interest, which is commonly known as ROI. Once you have lodged your expression of interest and the registration of interest, you need to wait for the state to invite you and be selected. So it's ROI is like a questionnaire. It's like a cover letter to the state. You're not supporting any or attaching any documents in the registration of interest, same like ROI. You are mainly addressing the questions. If you're eligible, telling the state that, yes, you are skilled enough, you're working in one of the target sectors, and then they will select you. And if they select you, they invite you, and then you lodge your nomination. Then you need to prepare the evidence to support your application. So all the documentation goes into the nomination application. I highly recommend that when you lodge your EOI and registration of interest, though you do not need to provide any supporting documents, but I highly recommend that you keep all the documents ready. For example, if your IELTS is expiring or your skill assessment is expiring, I highly recommend that you check that you don't have an expired skill assessment, or it's not expiring in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, when you receive the nomination, it is difficult for you to then rebook the test. Then you submit your nomination application to the Melbourne portal. And then once you get invited, then you get a chance to respond to any of the questions of the state within 14 days. Okay, it's like an overview. You have to get the registration selected. It's basically you live and work in Victoria with the 190. If you work under the target sector using your STEM skills, the reason why I've highlighted this in orange is because I'm going to be talking about these particular part. You have to be under 45 years of age, like any other skilled visa. Need to have competent English. You need to have a valid skill assessment in your nominated occupation. For example, if you're applying as an ICT security specialist, you must have a valid skill assessment and achieved at least 65 points, which is the minimum points. But yes, obviously, the higher points you have, the higher chances you have for the invitation. Some of the documents required at the time of nomination, which you must keep ready during the EOI and the ROI as well. Passport, English, skill assessment, your resume, detailed resume. You should have an employment contract, pay slips. Your superannuation is mandatory. This is one of the common questions why I've highlighted in orange is that I'm asked that is it mandatory to provide superannuation document? Yes, Victoria asks for your latest, the employer has contributed to the superannuation account. So I highly recommend that you have the document. Position description, if you are APRA, you must have a registration, the Victoria Declaration form, and the appointment of agent form if you're hiring a migration agent, and you need to submit an appointment of agent form. Victoria 190 is living and working. You must be living and working in Victoria. So you cannot be living in New South Wales or any other state to apply for Victoria 190 or 491. You must be living here. Victoria also accepts casual employment. You do not need to be working full-time or part-time. You could be working casual as a registered nurse or any of the target sectors, and then you're eligible to apply. However, if you're applying, for example, as an ICT security specialist, you should be employed as an ICT security specialist or a closely related occupation. You can't have a skill assessment of a nurse and be working as in IT or some other occupation and apply for it. You need an employment contract, your pay slips, superannuation, like I said, it's mandatory. And nomination, the Victoria state can ask for additional pay slips or even reference letter from your employer. So you need to have that ready as well. Now, I would want to concentrate on the target sectors, which is health, medical research, life sciences, agriculture, food, manufacturing, new energy. The terminologies itself describe the sectors. I won't go into too much of details. However, I have picked some of the target sectors, which I've experienced most common questions regarding that. What does the target sector mean? Health, everybody knows if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, that comes under the health sector. However, like I said, agriculture, food, manufacturing industries, like supply chain management, that's all like the self-explanatory ones. New energy is like the energy sector. If you are working in a circular economy, like recycle, in a renewable energy, that's basically recycling. That's also one of the target sectors. Now, I've picked these ones basically because in terms of digital sector, that's one of the most commonly occupations that people are eligible. For example, ICT security specialists are one of the highest currently, as per the data, we are receiving a lot of invitations in digital sector. So I would like to explain a little bit about the digital sector. They've added some of the occupations, some sectors in the digital, which is agriculture technology. Now that word itself, sometimes a little bit people think, oh, is it like agriculture? Is it technology? It's a combination basically. So agriculture technology or agri-tech is the application of technology to produce more or less to make the farming process more efficient. So the word itself, agriculture, combined with technology. So don't forget, this is all digital, and digital is all IT. So you need to have combine your skills with agriculture, artificial intelligence, for example, that is a simulation of human intelligence. Example, like, for example, computer systems or something to do with speech recognition or machine vision. So that is artificial intelligence. I mean, obviously, it's not one of the most common jobs. Like, it's hard for people to get jobs as well. So, however, Victoria is targeting those sectors because they want, obviously, people to invest their skills on their sectors. Cybersecurity, digital games. EduTech, I would like to explain, is basically if you are using your IT skills in the education sector. As an example, a software developer or a software engineer is working in one of the classroom sections and improving students for education outcomes, which basically enhances the education system or the learning system. So that is one of the eligible sectors as well. The energy sector, like I've explained to you, the fintech is basically financial. So fin stands for financials. If you are probably a mathematician or if you are working in the digital sector and using a technology and innovation, then it falls under the digital sector as well. Victoria is prioritizing some of the business presence. If you're working in Parkville, Footscray, or Docklands, your assessment or occupation could highly be assessed as a priority. That's what they have mentioned. All right. Now, digital, they have added few more occupations like the imaging, health and medical, robotics, automation, cities and infrastructure technology, transport technology. So that is some of the additions that the Victoria did in terms of the digital sector. All right. Now, like I said, I have some of the most common questions that I get in the Victoria 190, which is, like as mentioned, it's a permanent residency, and 491 if you're sponsored by the regional state. Now, Victoria, most common question is like, I've been asked that my skill assessment doesn't match my occupation, like someone who could be studying an IT degree here or must have been a chef overseas. So if you have a skill assessment of a chef and you're working in IT sector and your qualification is IT, you cannot apply because the skill assessment must match the ROI, nomination, application, and EOI. The English test and skill assessment, you must have 12 weeks validity remaining. 491, you must be living and working in a regional area. Only STEM skills, like I said, Victoria is only inviting candidates using STEM skills, which is science, technology, engineering, and medical and mathematics in the target sectors, which I'll get onto it later. Now I'll flip through these. Hospitality. And they have also added workforce skill pathways, which is hospitality for cook and chef and the early childhood educators. For example, the pre-primary school teachers, they are also eligible to apply for Victoria. Okay, now this is some data from the Victorian state that they invited. The most percentage was in health, and then the second biggest was the digital sector, and then advanced manufacturing. Now this is from last year, this is not from this year, but this is just an idea that how much percentage of which sectors were invited last year. Now, getting on to Tasmania, I'll just check if you have any question regarding Victoria. I think I had one question from Ayush. He mentioned that I have lodged an ROI EOI for Victoria 190, working as a teaching associate in cybersecurity for more than 2 years. So you've lodged it on 80 points. All right. So Ayush, I would highly recommend that you keep your options open for other states as well, because 80 points might not be enough to get invited. So I would recommend that you keep your options open. All right. If I have any other questions, I'm more than happy to address it later as well. Now, Tasmania is another beautiful state, and they have different requirements. They have graduate requirements, and then they have the study requirements and the work experience requirements as well. You should have lived in the state for 2 years. That is one of the most, So you should have lived there for 2 years. So you can't study there for just 6 months and 1 year. You need to be at least do your 2 years, which is the 92 weeks of study in Tasmania. And for the another one is there are some requirements that is after 30th of June. There are some requirements which are before 30th of June. So before 30th of June, if they have lived there, more or less the requirements are the same. You should have lived there for 2 years and did done a course of 92 weeks registered course. And your partners or dependents must also be living in Tasmania. So if you are living there and studying there and your partner is living in a different state, you might not be eligible for it. Okay. Okay, I think my slide is a bit stuck. That's some of the Tasmania graduate requirement. We do have the Tasmania working requirements as well. If you're working in Tasmania for 6 months, it could be any occupation. You should be eligible to apply for Tasmania working requirements as well. Some of the working requirements are not accepted. For example, supermarket, service station, and some takeaways like taxi, Uber driving. The Tasmania 190 will not accept those occupations. So it is preferred that you either should be working in your occupation or you should be working in one of the professional occupations, but you do not need to be working in your occupation. That is for Tasmania 190. And that is a permanent residency pathways. Now, this is the basic eligibility, but I don't want to set the expectations wrong. The stronger the application it is better, the higher the points is better. Tasmania, states like Tasmania, they always see how much committed you are to that state. Okay. So we have Tasmania graduate requirements and the working requirements. I'll just check if I have any questions, and then if I don't, I'm more than happy to, okay. All right. Tasmania also has small business owner requirements. So you should have an established business in the Tasmania for minimum 6 months. This is for 491, and you need to have a comprehensive business plan. If you have a family in Tasmania, your parents, your brothers, sisters, your first cousin, you might be eligible to apply for the 491 Tasmania as well. So that's also one of the options. Okay. I've got some question here. I might take that now. If we get 491 for Victoria, can we work and stay in South Australia? Thanks, Eric, for asking that question, because that is one of the common questions that I get, that if I have a 491 state nomination from one regional area, can I stay in another state? Look, there is an obligation. If you have been granted a visa through a regional state sponsorship, you must live in a designated area. If you have any particular concern, you can get in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to discuss this in detail. However, I do recommend that if you have been sponsored from Victoria 491, you live in the designated area for 3 years and work in your work there for full time, and then you are eligible to apply for permanent residency. All right, I'll just check if I have any other question here. And okay. Thank you, everyone. And I'll just keep checking the questions. If I'm not able to address them right now, I'm more than happy to address them later, or feel free to contact me on my mobile number or email address, and you can book a consultation with me for further discussions. Thank you. I will hand over the session to Dharmendra, who is also one of our most experienced agents in Aussie's group, and he's going to go through the state nomination options as well.
Thank you, Gunjan. Thank you. This is, I think are we halfway there? We are halfway there, yeah? Okay, it's cool. Now, let's go and share the screen first. And are we looking at any questions from your side? Are there still any questions coming on your side, Gunjan? No, nothing, right? Yeah?
I do have one regarding
you can, because you're in the flow of what you just presented. I think it would be good if you wanted.
That's okay. Yeah, I can quickly take this one, and then if you want. So Rupinder is asking that please elaborate about transport technologies, network design engineer via recruitment organization. So Rupinder, you are using your STEM skills as an engineer. In the target sector, I can check that for you. And I would like to know a little bit more about the organization, because so I can categorize it, whether it falls under one of the manufacturing industries. Some of the companies that are transport, they could deal with supply chain management as well, or manufacturing industry. So that's interesting, because that's one of the most common questions that we get regarding Victoria. And you can get in touch with us and I'll be more than happy to assist you. It's always tempting to take questions, so I'll stop now and then I'll hand this over to you. Thank you.
Seriously, that was really, really good. I mean, from another state to another state, every time when we hear different agents and colleagues sharing that information, you get overwhelmed with your own state's requirements. And without further ado, let me share my screen and let's start talking about WA. Let's see, share screen. Let's jump into this and it says share. Okay, here we go. You guys can see that all right, so no problems. Little tiny dot, right? The biggest state in the whole of Australia, isn't it? Okay, let's welcome to Perth. Move this. Okay, so as you know, I liked what Gunjan did earlier on. I mean, she kind of went into the nitty-gritty of what 190 and 491 essentially is, aside from the rudimentary aspects of what you really need to have and what target sectors and so on and so forth. So for those who have been still paying attention, let's take you right to Western Australia. So my name is Dhaminda, as you guys already know, and let me just cut straight to the requirements in WA. Not as stringent as what South Australia was, and maybe parts of Tasmania and before and after and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to talk about some very interesting stuff. Essentially, where WA, like probably any other state, it incentivizes its own graduates first. And they were doing that for a long time, where if you studied 2 years, you were studying in a field of occupation that is deemed as the graduate occupation list. And then that list is a pretty long list, by the way, which I don't have the luxury of going into, but if you have that, then you know. But the usual occupations are, the chefs and the engineers, the accountants and so forth. And of course, the IT notwithstanding. And then of course, in between you have various other occupations that you need to, but by and large, you needed to have studied 2 years in WA. Basically, that's what they're saying. Now, some of the questions, I think some of my other colleagues would have also gotten, I don't know whether that Section 48 bar actually applies to them. So what WA is saying that, okay, you've been invited, you've studied, and if you have a Section 48, meaning that if you are subjected to that bar, meaning that you are not, WA will not invite you. So if you've been inadvertently invited, they will know that if you're Section 48 bar, then that application will not proceed. So just basically hope and pray that that Section 48 bar is lifted. And we should pose this a problem, because the next point is that if you said, oh, I can only lift my Section 48 so I go offshore. If you go offshore, then you're not going to be invited, because you need to be onshore to actually having that. So basically, hopefully you don't have Section 48 bar is what I'm trying to say, because it's not going to be fun. English requirement, obviously, if you are doing a trade occupation and you study, it's 6 each. Then 7 each is for all the other, non-trade occupations. Naturally, you need a full skills assessment. And when you are invited for the graduate occupation list, what the confusion seems to be reigning with a lot of people is, do I need, this is the graduate occupation list, by the way, do I need to have a job offer letter before I apply my expression of interest? It's chicken and egg scenario, right? If you are quite confident that you've got all the other factors that I just mentioned, and you manage to lodge an expression of interest and you're already in the queue, so to speak, and upon invitation, what the state needs is they give you, not like what we heard about Victoria, where you have 14 days and so on and so forth. In WA, you have 28 days to accept the invitation. Now, in order to do so, you then go and get what is their requirement, a full-time paying job, 35 hours a week, someone who has already been registered for more than 12 months, So in actual fact, you need a job offer letter in that related field, okay? And pretty much they will do the assessment based on your duties, responsibilities, your salary, and what you're going to be getting. And within a month or so, the state nomination team says, yep, thumbs up, you're eligible. And then you get another second link, then you go and apply that corresponding visa, whatever that might be, whether the 190 or the 491, right? So just remember that's what it is. Now, one of the things that I don't know whether, you know, how the rest of the other states go through, but the EOI here is quite interesting. So I go through some ranking system. Now, I want to talk about this because I don't think so the rest of my colleagues have actually touched upon this, whereby what WA does is in a very unique way. It's in a, you know, let's say you've done a master's in something, project management, let's say project management for exchange. And if you have studied something that's not on the list and you're thinking, oops, I better go and do a course in, say, a trade course. Now, if you go and do that, but you're going to get points on the basis that you've got a master's degree. So that is going to be quite interesting. Yes, you've met a 2-year study requirement, but you're also going to be invited on the basis that what? You've got a higher qualifications that puts you ahead of someone who's got a diploma, advanced diploma, bachelor's, honors, as well as then where you are, which is the master's. So that ranking system is really, really interesting because you are really going to be in a better position, notwithstanding the points that you're going to get and all the other fields that you are probably going to score more points in. So just remember that. Then, of course, your work experience. If you've worked in that designated field, you've worked for 1 year, then you're going to get extra 5 points and all the other stuff that happens in your language proficiency, depending on which that I've just mentioned. If it's a trade occupation, like I said, you get 6 each. And then if you're 7 each for the other sort of occupations, you're going to get 10 points. And then obviously if you score 8 each, correspondingly, that's a variable that you control, then you're going to get 20 points, right? So overall, you will see my last few slides. I've given you examples of just when and how some occupations have seemingly been invited based on these factors that we're just talking about. Because so it does make a difference. It does, although we all know that, you know, you need 60 points for 190 to be invited because the state gives you 5. And then correspondingly, you need 50 points to be invited for the 491 because the state gives you 15. So 65 is the cutoff, but the competition is so insane, it's just not funny. So if you make yourself into a better position, you're just going to be that much more closer to, in fact, getting an invitation respectively. Now, this is our strong, this is the graduate, general stream, right? So Schedule 1 has sort of come about as of July 5th, okay? So let me talk to you about this. So Schedule 1 requirements really is all that, right? Schedule 1 now, what they've done is, what previously used to be the graduate occupation list in which you studied 2 years, you've met the requirements and you've been invited down here. What is going to happen is you now, you can be anywhere in Australia. You don't even have to be a resident in Western Australia. You are actually eligible if you literally have your occupation on some of the occupations that's out there. So like I said, I don't have the preview to go into that, but you know what the lists are. So if you are in a situation like, say, let's give you an example, if you are in a trade occupation and you are in ACT, in Canberra, in any other state besides Perth or Western Australia, you meet all the other parts that I just spoken about, you put in an expression of interest. When you are invited, then you need to have not only high points, then you need to have a 1-year job offer full-time contract from somewhere within Western Australia. The whole of Western Australia, that's the beauty of it all, right? Not just Perth or, you know, the outskirts and stuff like that, so entire Western Australia. You get that, your application moves on, and then depending on what the level is, then that's how you probably want to get the application going. Now I want to give you an example. Now previously accountants, because I feel for you, I really feel for the accountants, right? Very highly qualified, you've done your NATI, you've done your PTE, you've done your PY, you've done everything. You are sitting on 95 and 100 points, some of you accountants. And then, you know, knowing behold, you realize in Western Australia, you're not on the graduate occupation list anymore, and you still want to apply, you can, right? And then that's also applicable to any other accountants in Australia. The competition is insane. And I say that not even lightly, right? So you are 95, 100 points, you can put that application in, but you need a job offer letter for 1 year. So if you have managed to get your skills assessment done as a finance manager, then you come back onto the graduate occupation list, which requires a job offer letter upon invitation for 6 months, not a year. So just remember those little factors as we speak. I know I put the onshore application, but I get a lot of fellows asking me, how come I'm not getting any invitation? I says, so whereabouts are you? He says, oh, I've left the country. I says, obviously, you put in a decent EOI, you are not going to get invited because you're not onshore. And quite funny enough, they just never occurred to them that they need to be onshore to be eligible for that. And it's a bit of a funny, sad one for some people, right? Now, going straight to Schedule 2, let's just see, Schedule 2 requirements. Again, no work experience, they just want you to make sure that when you are invited, you really need to be, you really need to have a job offer, a contract letter at that point in time. Let me just go back a stream here. I want to talk about this one just very, very quickly because I forgot to make mention, nurses. Right, nurses are in demand, as you can probably imagine right now. Now, if you were here onshore and you want to be eligible for that, you need to have had 1 year of experience already in WA, or conversely, you have 3 years of overseas experience. So either or, if you meet that, or in that sense, you're definitely eligible for, this is about the nurses, okay? So let me just jump back into the next one here. Again, section 48 bar is there, no work experience, full skills assessment. So what are the key points here? What are the key points that we want to talk about? I know it's a bit of a thing to read, but I just want to pick up the gist of it down here. It really is though. It's about people always asking us, oh, I've got 75 points, I have 80 points. What are my chances of being invited? Because on the general stream, now it's opened up, it's literally opened up to anyone in Australia. And that's the example I gave just now about accountants. So, you know, I've got mechanical engineers who are on, not the topic that we're going to talk about, which is a 189 visa. They're not being invited for 100 points. So you imagine the competition within those people who then says, okay, I'm going to give 190 and 491 a chance in WA, but I need a job offer letter when I'm invited. So really, it's a ranking system. It's not so much so about how some other states that we just heard earlier on, STEM, critical sector, you got to work in Greater Adelaide or lesser. That all doesn't apply down here. Every state just have its own little, funny little requirements. So if you have anything more specific of your situation, feel free to, at the end of it all, you can probably see my contact details and you can get in touch with me. This is the example I was giving you about. So I got some data as latest as August. So you can see, you can even see, say, for example, when were some of those people who suddenly, like the carpenters and the bricklayers who were never on the list before, up until July 5th, when they were introduced, right? So chef has always been there. So you can imagine how, so a bricklayer, what is his qualification? He's got a bachelor's. He would have had a bachelor's from something else, and he would have realized that, or she for that matter, would have realized that whatever that they've studied didn't have any options for PR. They went ahead, they did a trade course, they put in the EOI from way back then, and then only now they've sort of come into some sort of recognition to be invited. Good old motor mechanics, like example I was giving you, his qualification is master's. He's a motor mechanic. He would have done, or she would have done a master's in, God forbid, an MBA, and then realized that there is just nothing to join the dots. And then, knowing behold, went on to do a motor mechanic, did the job ready program, in other words, got a skills assessment. And that's how correspondingly on such high points, they were seemingly invited not long ago. And the same thing with the graduate stream, we're talking about the 190, which is the cream de la cream. Everybody wants the 190. And these are a snapshot of some of the people who have in fact scored points, correspondingly looking at the effective date of when the EOI was lodged, and then, you know, and then the qualifications. This, like it or not, is just how the ranking system works in regards to putting an EOI. So it's not enough to say you're a chef, you've done your certificate 3 or 4, your diploma, and you've scored your NATI, you've done your proficient English, and you're sitting on 85 points. How is it that you're not invited? Well, guess what? Somebody who's done an advanced diploma, who've done a bachelor's, and they've got lesser points to you, they are the ones getting an invitation. So that is a frustration. We are just dealing with the different organ grinders, as the saying goes. So hopefully if your situation is such, either you can do a course like all those people that you just see alongside that, who done an advanced diploma, so then they pretty much get in a better position for an invitation. So I don't want to go into too much of this list. This is just sort of giving you a broad brush view of just what the points were and who has been invited so far. Now, the IT guys, I haven't forgotten you. That's a graduate stream. People are interested in this. I kind of put 4 or 5 slides of this because I get a lot of questions from a lot of these kind of people who says, oh, I've got so-and-so points, I've got all of this, how come I'm not getting invited? I'm like, I don't know. This is what we're dealing with. And as we speak, live right now, Perth time, let me check my phone. It's 3:57 in Perth. I'm getting emails, calls saying, where is the invitation round in WA today? We are end of the month. I don't know. We've called the state nomination team and said, hey, are you forgetting to invite people this time? Because, oh, the month hasn't ended yet. So fingers crossed, 4:30, we might just suddenly get invitations today. And if that happens, Ali, you and I will be the only ones celebrating because we are the ones looking at each other right now. You're going to be talking about Sydney next, right? Okay, so a lot of finance managers, because a lot of those people who haven't had their assessment done or got an assessment done as an accountant, not being invited, apparently they seem to be getting through. Cafe restaurant manager is another very popular sort of stream for a lot of people. I want to leave that aside, and I am pretty much, I think I'm done. I think I finished through the whole thing, and I'm not going to share my screen anymore, and I'm going to just come back onto being live and seeing if there's any other questions. But basically, snapshot, quick recap. I think there's a lot of difference from different states. I was trying to see if there was any questions coming up. I can't seem to find any questions on here unless, let me scroll this thing down. It says, questions from 3:35. Does that even apply to me? No. Gunjan, can you guys, we all live, right? We can hear each other and see each other. Is that any question answered by anyone in Victoria? That you get that, or you want to take that later? Okay, questions for Daminda. Sorry, I just saw mine. Okay. What are the chances of WA 190 invitations for agricultural consultancy? I knew that was going to come up. What are the chances? Shall we all close our eyes and look at this crystal ball and then predict what exactly is going to happen? There is not something like that. 75 points, agricultural consultant, 190. If I was a betting person, very, very slim, 75 points, okay? Because you are going to get people who are already on 80, 85 points. That's just how the ranking system works, unfortunately. So depending on how much oxygen you have in your tank, if you're on your 485, if you're on any other visa, you have some time. It's okay. We're only in your infancy, in your second, third month. Hang on, hold on to that. See how you're going to improve your points in any other shape or form. Get into the 75, push yourself to 80, 85, and it's there, it's fresh. Fingers crossed. The budget maybe might allow the WA government to get more seats. Supposedly we read along those things that might happen. If that doesn't happen, you still have some time. So don't lose any sort of, don't do anything drastic is what I'm trying to say to you. So just hold on right there. What have you got? Is that still for me? Again, mechanical engineer with 80, 85 points, 90 points for WA. So if you are under the graduate occupation list, then you are studying down here. So that's no problem. You will definitely get an invite. If you're in the general stream, competition is mental, all right? You're looking at 90, 95 points before you are even close enough to be getting that, because they've thrown everything open to everyone everywhere. So that's what you're up against. Am I still with Gabriella? Okay, what are the chances for mechanical engineer? Again, 90 points. Wow. I think 90 points is very, very sound, very safe. You're not talking about, by the way, you're talking about 190, right? Yeah, I figured 190. Everybody wants a 190, Gunjan, Ali. Nobody wants 491 anymore, right? So I, like I said, if you've got some time, if you're not going to finish anytime soon with whatever visa that you have, it's just not bad. 90 points, 80, 85 is very, very good. My God, these are questions. I think I'm done with that. This is, again, me? No. Again, this is New South Wales. I've got Monday. I'll take one more question and then I'll hand it over to Ali. And it's got a question from Mandeep Kaur. She says, 90 points, WA, mechanical engineer again, general stream, what are the chances? I'm working 2 years in WA. Wow. You're working 2 years in WA. Yeah, you should, look, I'm pleasantly surprised that you're not getting invited on those points. So just hold on, just wait for 1-2 months, sort of see what the threshold is. Don't rock the boat too much and things might happen, right? I want to leave, but I will see this wall and floor tiler. I'm a bit of a sucker for this kind of questions, right? I'm from WA, 1 year experience, 65 points. Ooh, so wall and floor tiler, this is exactly what I want to say to you. And this is my final question, right? I'll take Ali, I'm going to transfer that to you. People need to be realistic here, okay? Yeah, it's open WA, but you are applying under the general stream. So you are going to be competing with people on, if you're a trade occupation, firstly, you are on the 25% percentile. 75 is given to all those, different occupations is what I'm saying, the non-trade ones. You can see how that window, and we've only got 1,500, 1,400 invitations in WA. The competition is just, it's not a level playing field. So put my hands together and just ask you to pray, sit, wait, and if you get invited, fantastic. If not, then you find other means. You try to find an employer-sponsored means. You try to jump onto a training visa. There's all these funny things that you seemingly can do. Without further ado, I suspect we might get further questions at the same time. I take my piece, I bow, and I handball it to my friend in Sydney. Ali, all yours, my friend.
Thank you, Dharminder, and thank you everyone for explaining all of the states. So my role will be, I'll be explaining you requirements, state and nomination requirements for NSW and ACT. I'll try to keep it, brief, and I'll focus on key requirements because of the time constraint we have. And then at the end, I'll take questions because I can already see that there are a few questions related to NSW. And don't worry, I'll be answering that once I finish, once I go through the requirements. So my name is Ali Ihsan. I'm registered migration agent at Houses Group Sydney. So today, as I said, I will be discussing 190491 nomination requirements in NSW and ACT. So starting with NSW, so again, some basic eligibility requirements, which everyone has discussed earlier. Minimum 65 points, under 45 years of age, you should have at least competent English. And for residency, that's where we are getting questions. So you must be residing in NSW to apply for 190 visa. The residence requirement is 3 months, unless you are working in your nominated occupation or closely related occupation. Now you must prove that you are, you should have genuine and established residency in NSW. So let's say if you have just moved here, I will recommend you to, have all the documents and paperwork ready for your residence. Let's say get lease agreement or bank transactions, open bank, change address on your driver's license, or so make sure that you have all those proofs of residence in NSW, basically. And then your occupation must be on NSW's occupation list. Now, NSW occupation list now includes most of the occupations, basically. Now, I've written few of the fields that are there in the list. Of course, IT, information technology, engineering, nurses, many trade occupations are on the list. Life sciences, let's say biotechnologists or similar occupations are on the list. Then community and social workers and hospitality. So these are few sectors or few fields, I've tried to summarize it, that are available on NSW's occupation list. Now, if we look into, if we go 3-4 months back and we compare current list with 3-4 months back, we can see that NSW has opened up to a lot more occupations than they were last year, basically last financial year. And so almost, most of the occupations under these fields are in the list, basically. So if you are from these occupations, or if you are from other general occupations as well, there are a few other general occupations which are on the list. So you can consider NSW 190 option. Then how does the process work? So it's pretty much it's straightforward in terms of the process. For 190, you have to lodge your EOI and you claim points, the points that you have. Then you wait for pre-invite or invitation for nomination from NSW government. Now, you don't have to do like ROI or anything else for 190. You lodge your EOI, you sit there, you wait for their invitation. Once they nominate you, you have to submit nomination application to NSW government. And then once they invite you, you lodge these applications. So it's a two-stage process. First, NSW government will invite you, you'll submit them documents, and then they will give you final invitation to lodge these application. That's pretty much same what happens in every other state, basically. But it's, you don't have to do anything in addition to lodging EOI. Now, the question is generally people ask, okay, I have lodged my EOI, my occupation is on the list, why I'm not being invited? And that's the most common question, I get asked. So how NSW works is basically they give ongoing, they conduct ongoing invitation rounds. So there is no set date. There is no such thing that they will have one invitation round every month or every fortnight or after every 2 months. They give ongoing invitations, and number of invites can vary. For example, there was one invitation round today, and we saw that they picked few trade occupations, they picked a few life scientist occupations, and very few IT occupations, basically. So, but then, this will vary. So maybe next month they will invite more IT applicants or more engineering applicants. So, but the good news is occupations that were not being invited before, let's say, trade occupations, for example, they have received few invitations in today's round, so which is good news. Now, when EOIs are ranked on the factors, so first, the NSW will look into your occupation, how critical your occupation is to NSW. Second, they will look into your point score, then your English proficiency and years of skilled experience you have in your nominated occupation. So these are 4 important factors. If there are 2 applicants, they both have same points, then probably their years of skilled work experience will determine who is going to get invited, or who will win that race, in other words. So that's why it's not a requirement to have work experience. So again, there was a requirement of working in your own field like 1 year back, but currently there is no such requirement, but still preference is given to applicants who are working in their nominated or closely related occupation. So now coming towards 491, basically, before I go to 491, just one thing I want to add. So cutoff for most of the occupations is somewhere 90-95. So that's what you have to target for at least next few months. That's what we can see based on few rounds that have gone through. And you have to make sure that your EOI is up to date. If you are employed, you have that mentioned in your EOI. That's very important. If you have points less than 90, including state points, then your chances, of course, are less in near future. For 491 introduction, I believe my colleagues have given that basic introduction, but simply it's not a permanent visa, it's a temporary visa. It it can lead you to permanent residency. If you live in regional for 3 years and work there and maintain income threshold for 3 years, it can be converted to PR. So it's a pathway to PR, basically. Not unlike 190, it's not permanent residency. Now, eligibility requirement for 491 in NSW is minimum 65 points. You get 15 points from region. So let's say if you have your own 50 points, you'll get 15 points from regional, and that will make you eligible. Then again, same under 45 years of age. Now, you should have at least competent English, again, like any other visas, and you must submit ROI in, there is, NSW is opening in windows, basically. So last submission window was in August. Now the next one is starting from tomorrow, which will stay there for whole October month. And then the other one will be in January and then March. So you have to submit registration of interest. So no, that's additional step. That rather than just submitting EOI, you have to, in addition to that, you have to submit ROI to NSW, and you will be invited on the basis of ROI information that you provide in your ROI. Okay. And you must submit in that window, and then window remains open for entire months. Now, again, I get asked this question from many of my clients that, is there any benefit if you submit on first day or, as soon as possible? Answer is no. They will issue you invites on ongoing basis, and NSW will issue invite in first week of November. Most of the invitations will be issued in first week of November. Anyone who has submitted their ROI by end October will be considered basically in that invitation round. So don't panic if you are not eligible right now, or if you can get eligible even by end of October, you can still submit your ROI. So that's very important information for applicants who are planning to apply for this. Now there are 3 streams currently. Stream 1, 2, and 3. Stream 1 is for applicants who are living and working in regional NSW. Now, work experience, you should have valid assessment, of course, and your occupation should be on a combined list. Then you must be working for previous 12 months in relevant occupation. Now, relevant occupation is again your nominated occupation or closely related occupation, and you must be living in regional NSW for past 12 months. Now, NSW is also giving a consideration on case-to-case basis applicants who are residing in regional NSW for 3 months or more, basically. So if you are living in NSW for 3 months or more and you are working in your nominated occupation, you can submit your ROI under stream 1. But the key thing here is working in relevant field, basically. And this is the priority stream, basically. So if you are going for stream 1, you'll have highest chances. Then second is stream 2, where for applicants who have completed 2 years study in Australia, in regional NSW, and they were residing in regional NSW for the entire duration of their study, and then qualification must be assessed as relevant to the occupation which they are nominating. So that's the key again, your occupation has to be in the list, and your qualification that you have attained through your study in regional NSW must be on that list as well. Third is stream 3. Anyone who has their occupation on regional development, RDA's occupation list can apply. Now for this, you do not have to be living in regional NSW. So anyone from any state, so applicants who are living in Perth or Victoria, anywhere, they can lodge their ROI under stream 3 in NSW. Now, again, their occupation has to be on relevant regional list. Now, I'll show you quickly the list of regions that are there. But then please note that stream 3 is highly competitive stream because applicants across the states will be applying for this. We have received few invitations in last round under stream 3, but they were for some critical occupation, that's a civil engineer or nurses. So they have received invites. Unfortunately, accountants, we haven't received any invite as per our internal data for under stream 3 for accountants, basically. So that's what you have to keep in mind for stream 3. It's highly competitive stream, basically. Then these are the list of few regions which are there, and you have to look into each of the regions list. If your occupation is open there, then only you can submit ROI with that region. Otherwise, you cannot. This is a map which explain, regional area. So you will see they have NSW has divided their regions. So, it clearly says that so if you are living in, for example, Armadale, it comes under Northern Inland, or if you are living in Dubbo, it comes under Orana. So this is a map that explains, that gives an overview of each region and with postcodes or with LGAs, basically. Now that's that's all for NSW 190 and 491, and now I'll quickly go to ACT because that's another state where you can target 190 or 491. Now Canberra is, so they have first we have to see what is the minimum eligibility requirement. So you cannot apply to ACT nomination while you're sitting in other states. Simple. Either it's for 190 or 491, you cannot apply. And the minimum requirement for subclass 190 is that you must be working for 6 months, of course, living there as well, living and working for 6 months, full time, minimum 35 hours per week in any field, and it has to be continuous employment. If you are meeting this requirement, you are eligible basically, but it does not again guarantee outcome. But you are eligible to submit your metrics with Canberra. For 491, same requirements drop to 3 months. So you must be working for at least 3 months in any occupation in Canberra, and it has to be minimum 20 hours per week. Again, continuous employment. If it is not continuous employment, then that can be an issue because they will not consider you'll not meet eligibility criteria. If you take paid leaves, it's fine. With unpaid leaves, there has to be, you have to prove it another way, either through medical or some other compelling reasons, basically. Now, they announced another program which was through small business owner category. So let's say, for example, if your occupation is not, sorry, I forgot to mention one other thing. Your occupation also has to be on ACT critical list. If it is not on the list, even if you are living there or working there, you will not be eligible. The other way is if your occupation is not on the list and you are running a small business, you can still be eligible, basically. For example, if there is an occupation, let's say mechanical engineer, no, that's not in ACT's list. But if someone is mechanical engineer and they are running small business, they can be eligible for 491 or 190 under small business owner category. Now, a few requirements are your annual turnover has to be $200,000. Business should be profitable, and it should be paying you at least $26,000 in salary. For if you're applying for 190 visa, and if you're applying for 491, it should be at least 13,000 in past 3 months, basically. Then this is the basically overview of Canberra metrics. So let's say now if you're eligible, next step, you submit your metrics with Canberra and you claim points on their metric system. So that's another, again, additional step. You cannot directly apply to them. You have to submit metrics. They will issue you invite. Again, generally they conduct around every, twice a month or sometimes every week, and they issue invites on regular basis, basically. Now, you can claim points for your residence in Canberra. If you have lived there for 1 year, let's say you can claim 5 points. And, there are a few additional requirements, but again, we cannot go for in all the requirements in detail. But then 1 year residence continuous gives you 5 points. And then same way, if you have more years, you get more points. Then you have English proficiency points. You can get maximum 15 points if you have superior English, or if you have proficient, then you get 10 points. Spouse, you can get spouse 5 points from spouse as well if she has at least at least superior or proficient English. If she has competent English, you will not get a partner English proficiency points. Then if your nominated occupation is on the list, you get 20 additional points. Now, small business owner. So this is the criteria. If you have, you have run the business for 1 year, you get 20 points. If you run the business for 6 months, you get 10 points, basically. And you have to meet all the criteria that you see on that. Then length of ACT employment. No, this employment is any employment, does not have to be related to your field. It can be on ABN, it can be with on TFN, but with ABN, you have to make sure that your income is $520 per week, at least. That has to be taxable income, basically. And on TFN, again, it has to be minimum 20 hours per week. You can work with 2 employers, that's your choice. But then work has to be, in past 2 years. Now, if you work 6 months, you get 5 points. If you work there for 12 months, you get 10 points. So again, this is not, don't confuse it with working in nominated occupation. It's general employment. So any work that you do will give you points, basically. Then skill level employment gives you additional points. Now, what is skill level? Again, if you're working in your own field, your nominated occupation, and that's on the critical list, you'll get 20 points. The requirement is for 3 months. You must be working for minimum 3 months at the time of matric submission, basically. And the requirement is minimum 20 hours per week. It's not 38 hours. So even if you're working minimum 20 hours per week in your field, you can get 20 points. Or if you're working in another ACT critical sector, but it's not your nominated occupation, you can claim 10 points. Similarly, you can claim skill level points as well. If you are working at skill level 1 to 3, let's say, for example, you're working as sales and marketing manager, but you have assessment as mechanical engineer or electrical engineer. So you can still claim 5 points, but your qualification has to be relevant to that field. Then spouse partner employment points are there. If your partner is in Canberra living with you for past 3 months, you can claim points if she is working. Now, so if she is working in critical field, you get more points. If she is working in any field, then you can get at least 5 points from her. If she is not working, but she has an Australian degree, bachelor's or master's, and she is living with you, you can get at least 5 points. But in this case, she needs competent English, which is 6 each equivalent. Then your highest degree, master's or bachelor's, gives you points. So master's degree gives you 15 points, and bachelor's degree gives you 10 points. If you study in Canberra for 1 year, that's 5 points. 2 years gives you 10 points, and 1 year study includes the work experience, includes professional year as well. So that's another question that mostly people ask. And close family ties, you get points if you have, spouse or was Australian citizen residing there, or brother or sister. So basically that's all for both of the states. I've tried to cover all the basic things and basic eligibility criteria. Now I'll take questions because I can see a few questions related to NSW, and then I'll see if anyone else can answer questions related to other states, basically.
Ali, that was excellent. That was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Dharminder.
I didn't realize that in Canberra, they have really done it like the Canberra people do. Everything is so complex, like the politicians.
Okay, so let's start. So I've got one question from Annie. She said that she's living in NSW, 95 points, nominated occupation is developer programmer, 1.5 years. So again, Annie, if you look into, so in the past 2 to 3 months, they haven't issued invite to developer programmer or most of the IT occupations. So I will advise you to wait and see, because in next months, I expect that, since you are working, you are employed in your field, and there is not a long queue basically with these points and with this profile. So you have good chances of getting invite. It's just about once they start inviting, IT applicants in more numbers, you will see more invitations basically. Then other question is, what is the points for them? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so accountants in NSW stream 3. Look, for accountants under stream 3, I always tell my clients and everyone, stream 3 is highly competitive. So if you are going under stream 3, your chances are less basically. But then if you are living in regional and you have been residing in regional for a long time, then you might get invitation from NSW. But then stream 3 is a lot competitive, and currently, we have clients who are eligible under stream 1 and they are waiting for invitations for under accounting occupation. So it might take some time. Mostly maybe in last 2 submission windows, you might expect more invitations under stream 3. Then again, developer programmer, another question, 85 points with state. Look, I don't think 85 with state is a very high score. I will advise you to increase your points to at least 90, 95 to be, you know, at least in competition, basically. But then I always advise you to remain in the queue, and because sometimes you can be invited at lower points as well. So Chef, Karan, again, not in my knowledge, I haven't seen any invite for Chef, but I've seen invitations for a few other trade. So hang on, you know, you might be, NSW is opening up, you might get invited, as we have seen invitations being issued to other, other trade occupations. NSW Chef, again, same question. I've answered that. Again, try to get as many points as you can. That's, you know, that's the rule of thumb. You have to get high points in NSW. Doesn't matter which occupation are you lodging your expression of interest in. It's not like old days where you have 60 points, 65 points, and you will be invited by NSW. It's no longer true, because NSW is, yes, they are issuing invites, but they still want applicants with good English, with more skilled employment, and with high points, basically. So always try for high points in NSW if you want to increase your chances. Computer network engineer, yes, I believe you have very good chances at 95 plus 5 points. It's just about, you know, when they start, again, as I said, once they start inviting, then I believe you will have good chances to be invited. Azhar, how many points needed? Again, you know, the more the better. Okay, but then with retail pharmacists, I would say, again, for all the occupations, I recommend at least 85 to 90 points, excluding 85 to 90 at least, excluding state points, basically. So that's what your target should be. Motor mechanic, Sahil, no, not there is no news like for with our internal data. We haven't seen any invite, but then because there were very few invites, it was not like a normal round. So Sharma, Paras Sharma, so once you are invited for 491 visa from NSW, you cannot get 190 invitation from NSW after that. They will not issue you invite again for 190. So choose carefully. If you are going for 491, then you have to stick with it.
Sorry, Ali, can I just ask you, is that the same thing, but isn't W the same thing? You've been invited? You, in one calendar year, you can only be invited for one stream. Is that what the same thing you're saying over there?
Yes, they haven't even mentioned calendar year. So that's the difference. They say that once you have been invited, they brought this thing this year only. So they said that once you are invited for 491, you will not be considered for 190, basically. Okay. Previously, it was not the case. So now you have to be really sure if you are lodging your ROI and you are eligible and you are getting, you know, you're expecting an invite, make sure that you have made up your mind for 491, basically. Okay. So just for the viewers at the same time, I've just got some similar questions, just very quickly. I think only reason I'm asking, because I think it's really important, is I think Gunjan was saying at the same time, so if you've missed that particular time from August to whatever period of time, and you've not been invited, do you have to resubmit an ROI again, all over again, or how does it work? Yes. So someone who lodged their ROI in last window, when last window was open in August, and they were not invited, they have to submit new ROI in the next window. And unlike the EOIs, it just stays there. So this, okay, all right. ROI has to be submitted for every window. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. I think most of applicants will have same question. So thank you for asking, Dharmendra. I believe it would have clear most of it. And I'll just check if I have any other question. So whilst you're on that, I saw one or two questions on W, and since we're just taking questions, I think someone asked, is the September round going to go off? It's 429 and we don't know. We're waiting very earnestly here. We've bated breath, no invitations yet. So I can't even comment on that. So yeah, nothing so far.
Yeah, I think same with Victoria. They don't have any windows like New South Wales has. Victoria has not released any invitation windows. So we are putting the Victoria 190 and New South Wales, and then they can invite anytime. Right. Yeah, but they have limited seats, 3,500. There were a couple of questions regarding the teachers invitation as well. So this year, Victoria introduced the workforce skill pathway for the early childhood school teachers. And however, there was a Victorian state seminar, and they also mentioned that if you're a secondary school teacher as well, and if you're related, you don't need to be working in the target sectors. So a lot of people are thinking that I need to be working as a teacher in one of the target sectors. If you hold a skill assessment as a teacher, primary school teacher, early childhood educator, and if you are working in Victoria in a school, so I highly recommend to put in your state nomination. But yes, higher the points, the better. At the same time, if you have lodged a Victoria 190 or 491, I would recommend that don't keep waiting for the invitation. You keep your options open as well for other states as well, because it depends on your visa expiring. I mean, we do have COVID visa right now, but we don't know for how long they're going to have COVID visa. So to avoid further, studies and everything, so keep all options open.
Just like keep all borders open.
I know.
You are the strictest one, Dharminder.
Oh, don't even start. Don't even start. So,
Dharminder, I can see there are few questions related to Western Australia. If you want, I can read it. No, it's not in chat. I can.
Oh, okay. Please. Yeah.
So again, one is related round. Everyone is asking for round mostly in the chat. So that's where. Then let me check. I saw a couple of them here. I think they're all related to invitation rounds.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So, which you have, I think, cleared. I have few questions here for NSW, which I'll answer. So look, most of the clients, they want to know that what's happening with 90 and 95 pointers. So my advice to you is to wait for some time, and if you can increase your points. So let's say if you have 90 points, it means that you are missing something. Either you don't have employment, or you don't have English score, or you don't have partner points. So try to get those 5 points or 10 points as well on top. That's number one advice. Second, try to get assessments. More and more assessments will help. If you are eligible to get 2 assessments, 3 assessments, get it. Then third advice is to try to find job in your own field or closely related field. Requirement is minimum 20 hours per week. So even if you have completed your 485 visa and now you are on a student visa again, and if you're getting job, minimum 20 hours per week, it will still be the same thing, basically. So make sure that you focus on these 3 points, and you have to wait, because even last year, NSW issued 5 invitation, the 5 invitation rounds. They had 5 invitation rounds in last 6 months. Okay. And in first 6 months, they only had 1 or 2 rounds. That's what I remember. So you have to wait. In NSW, they change. There is no such thing that you will get invited in this much time, or, so it's always better to try to increase your points and wait in the queue. Occupations like civil engineer, someone has asked for civil engineer as well. It's in high demand in NSW. We have seen invitations even at 80 points for civil engineers. Okay. So if it was in high demand last year, it will be in demand, in coming year as well. So same rule, try to get high points, try to get job in your field. These are the 2 key things. And if you can get other assessment, get that and wait in the queue. You will have high chances if you have 90, 95 points.
I think Gunjan raised a good point. If we are using the opportunity of people or students or whoever to apply this COVID visa, which is the 408, just so that they don't jump onto a student visa, which everybody wants. But COVID, if everything else is okay, March, April, fingers crossed, they could just say, thank you very much, we're done with that.
Exactly.
And then it becomes a game changer. So,
And looking at that, they are opening, like South Australia has opened 70 occupations. I had a couple of offshore clients in those eligibility sections. So once they see that there are opportunities for people to come here, then obviously they won't want, they want skilled people at the end of the day. So yeah, and like Ali said, that try to get your job in your nominated field, because I have noticed in last so many years, the pattern of the state remains the same, no matter which state, that they want the commitment to the state. That's the whole purpose of the state nomination. People are always, clients asking, can we move to any other state? But obviously the 491 and 190, they always assess the commitment to the state. New South Wales, Tasmania, Northern Territory. If you have families living there, obviously it's preferred. They will always pick people who have got families there because they know you're not going to move from there soon.
Right, right.
Paying
And I think
taxes there.
one of the questions somebody also asked early on to, I think all of us, and we may have skipped, and I just wanted to just add is that the whole paradigm of 491 is that when you're granted, when you're a holder, you effectively can live anywhere which is regional, gazetted as regional besides Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. So you can effectively be nominated in New South Wales, and then you can say, oh, but I'm actually getting a job offer in WA. You're living in a regional area, you're a 491, you see your 3 years up, presuming that's what they're going to police properly, then you are effectively eligible for your 191. So living in any regional area, bar Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, 491 is fine. They're shepherding everybody into a 491.
Yeah, the visa doesn't have a specific condition. It says you should be living in a designated area, but I still advise my clients it's a moral obligation at the end of the day. So
to be with that state, right?
Yeah, better stick to the state.
Because look, then I also, so that's what they should, if you're sponsored by one region, then you should try to, or you should try your best to stick to that region itself, because they have sponsored you. You have given them declaration and you have made your commitment to them. Okay, so
and then you live for the rest 3 years out of stress, because I've seen clients will always remain stressed. Oh, have I breached the visa condition? Because they will hear 10 different things from 10 different people. So it's better to do the right thing. And you can always apply for a release letter. I've had a couple of like the release letter from the state as well due to COVID. You can't just relocate, and you can show that you have a job here already and you can't relocate due to some health reasons and because of the COVID, exposure. Due to the health, and most of the migrants are alone here, they're not with their families.
Right.
So there's also a compelling reason and circumstances to
Now, this has been a
I've got one
divisive
question.
issue among us, because I would support Deminder's view, because the law says that they can live anywhere. My question would be, why would they be asking someone to let them go? They mustn't. There is no obligation. It's not even a moral requirement, it's an ethical requirement. But again,
Right.
why? And what's the power of the release letter? And what if they don't? Does the state has no any other option than to give them the release letter? Then what's the point of the release letter? If the state refuses to release them, what's the point of this refusal if it has no power? So to me, it's just a funny element of putting papers from one table to another, or typing emails, or using government money to hire people who do unnecessary stuff, taxpayers' money for people doing unnecessary things, exercising the powers which do not exist. This power doesn't exist. And that's the one most frequently asked question. And like, if the person wants to go to Gold Coast as soon as they get their 491, yes, there is an ethical commitment, but
as our migration students, we are encouraging.
Are we breaching a condition? Can their visa be cancelled? What's the legal repercussion? No legal repercussion.
So I think we'll take that up next Thursday at 3:30.
There is one question for you,
here. Yeah.
Dharminder, there is one question.
Yep.
Was asked that they've asked for 2-3 times that if chef is still on an SWL list in Western Australia.
Yeah, chefs on the graduate occupation list, exactly, as well as the general stream at the same time. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for answering that. Then someone has asked from accounting background that at 100 points, what they should do. Now, recently in last round and even in the round before, we have received invitation at 110 points, basically including state points. And there were applicants who were waiting at 105 and they did not receive invitation from NSW. So if you cannot reach that mark, then my advice will be to consider other options, looking for 491, either in NSW or in other regions, as my colleague have discussed.
South Australia, working in the field, you would get through even with 65. If you find a job as an accountant, it's going to be extremely competitive. I think we're slightly slightly less multicultural than in other states and slightly more conservative. It is extremely competitive. You know, finding a job as an accountant is the same as finding a job as a lawyer.
You sound like you're an ambassador for South Australia. You're advocating.
I am. That's why I'm here. That's why I have tuned in only when I could put my arguments through. And outer regional doing any job. So if you have a skills assessment and you want to look at the wonderful deserted plains of South Australia and regional centers like Port Augusta, Mount Gambier, and our agricultural center Renmark, then you can get your assessment from CPA, IPA, and never be concerned about the 100 and something points, because if you go to outer regional South Australia for 1 year, that's the commitment Gunjan has spoken about. It's more important than anything. We're happy for you to be working part-time. We're happy to you to be potentially working more than less than 20 hours a week, even 15 or 18 might work sometimes. We're happy to work at a production line, in a chicken farm, in an OTR, but apply as accountant. And we will consider your 65 points as they are if you show the residential commitment to outer regional. And again, there is no legal requirement. Once your nomination is granted, yeah, hopefully no one from South Australian government is watching this video of me being so unethical. But there is no legal commitment of you not going back from Renmark to Adelaide once your 491 nomination is granted for a year. So it's a wonderful opportunity, especially as Gunjan said, with the 408, a lot of people's 485s are expiring. They're coming here. We're doing 408s for them. They're buying.
You haven't said anything unethical, so don't worry about it.
And they do this 1 year in outer regional South Australia.
In outer regional, they have categorized a lot of postcodes, though they are very small areas. I've lived in South Australia for almost 7 years. It is a beautiful state, no doubt. And it is a good opportunity. I agree with you, because they have a lot of postcodes in those. And even the other Adelaide cities, like most of the occupation, I think you have for 12 months. And working 12 months in the whole Australia, like the whole South Australia, is not a bad opportunity at all.
Oh, we have 6 months even for some occupations.
6 months for some of occupations.
It really depends. Yeah, I mean, it's plenty of options. And look, the numbers speak for themselves. As I say, when people tell me, but look, NSW has 7,000 seats and you have the 5,200, I say, look, it actually means that we have more. Because we are a tiny state with 3 tiny universities, and we have 5,200, and the huge NSW has over 7,000, where competition is absolutely enormous. So that's why we are much more lenient than everyone else, but we want the commitment to this area. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, every year states revise their quota and revise what occupations is in shortage. So it keeps changing. So I always advise clients to take the opportunity of that duration, because most of them ask, oh, what's going to happen next year? So I'm like, okay, focus on what the rules are now and concentrate on the eligibility part. I mean, Victoria is now open teachers as well, and nurses. They have been good in inviting nurses. So I had some question here regarding 75 points. So we had lot of invitations for nurses in critical sector, mental health. And sorry, because that was one of the questions for Victoria nursing I had seen. So just thought I'll speak that that the nurses who are working directly with the companies and not through the agencies, they are prioritized over the nurses who are working through the agency. So that's one thing. That
enroll nurses as well, or just
the registered nurses, the ANSCO level 1 and 2. Haven't had any. So I encourage registered nurses to apply. Enrolled nurse can go through the 491 sectors in Britain, other regional areas as well, not just Victoria. And so with the registered nurses, mental health and pre-operative, and we had a couple of invitations there. So that's from me for nurses.
I think
Ali, you got questions?
You want to add something? I think we are running.
No. I just want to say, if you're seeing any other questions, I'm
Western Australia, no, not really. It was just these were pretty much all the questions. I will just answer one question quickly, and then we can end this session.
Sure.
Yep. So person has asked that if work experience in NSW, does it has to be after getting skills assessment or after qualification? So in NSW. So it's always post-qualification. There is no requirement that work experience has to be after assessment. No, for different bodies, yes, there can be some question marks like when experience starts, that's a different story. But then generally experience after post-qualification is considered. And the date, sometimes if assessing bodies are mentioning date like ACS, they put a date that your experience after this date will be considered. And NSW will only give you points for that particular work experience, not before that. So I think that's it from my end.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to add
Just
otherwise.
one thing, because there's a question for physiotherapists in Victoria. Now, health is a broad category. So very common questions that I've had some psychologists as well, and a physiotherapist and dental. So they can be counted in the health sector. So just if you're a doctor or a nurse, not necessary that you could lodge into the health sector. If you have studied anything related to medicine or any science or technology, you can use your STEM skills in the target sectors and lodge your Victoria 190 or 491.
Okay.
Or I'll add that one.
I think we've lost our good ambassador from South Australia. At the same time, I think from my end, from WA, all I can say is, oh, he's back. Okay, he's listening passively. Kotsia was just saying we're pretty much done with a lot of the Q&As. I'll let anybody else, the person who maybe started, you can wrap up, finish up, and then we can also.
Yeah, sure. So hopefully while everyone else was working and doing the Q&A, I tried to convert as many people as possibly to go to South Australia.
I did the same, by the way. Sitting.
Yeah. It's always good to have someone do the job and then jump in at the right time. So this is what we have largely been doing. I hope we haven't been too boring for you, audience, and we hope to see you in the nearest future with more updates. And thank you to the wonderful team. You're all amazing experts in what you're doing. Thanks.
Awesome. This is
Thank you.
good. This is where we look for a red button and just press